Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We start with a twist in the AI tale. Is Nvidia's trillion-dollar monopoly ending? The challenger is Google. Its AI chips are finding new takers, and that has made Nvidia shares crash by 7% in a single day. We'll discuss where this is going. Meanwhile, a new report is out. It's about the fentanyl crisis in the US. Did Trump officials try to drag India into it? We will explain. Also in focus, China's property crisis is deepening. One of its biggest developers, Vantage, is in trouble. A leaked phone call between the Americans and the Russians has triggered a storm. Was Trump's top ally advising Russia? In the UK, a make-or-break budget for Prime Minister Keir Starmer. In South Asia, the Pakistan-Taliban breakup, how Rawalpindi's strategic asset has become a strategic nightmare. Why Taiwan wants more weapons from the United States, why India wants to focus on shipbuilding to rule the waves, and why staycations are becoming the new favorite. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. A massive fire engulfs multiple residential high-rise buildings in Hong Kong. At least 14 people have been killed in the tragedy. Reports say some residents could be trapped inside. Police have evacuated nearby buildings. Sections of a highway have also been closed. The cause of the fire is not yet known. Gunfire heard near the presidential palace in Guinea-Bissau as shots rang out. People fled from the area. This comes just days after its presidential election. The results are expected tomorrow. The West African country has seen 4 coups and multiple attempts since its independence in 1973. Sudan's army chief urges Donald Trump to end the war in his country. The Sudanese army has been fighting the paramilitary RSF since April 2023. Attempts to broker peace between the two sides have repeatedly failed. Trump took an interest in the war for the first time last week, vowing to end it. Israel's defense minister warns that there will be no calm in Lebanon if Israel's security is not guaranteed. This comes as the Netanyahu government intensifies its operations despite a year-old ceasefire with Hezbollah. Last Sunday, Israel killed a top Hezbollah commander. And the Indian city of Ahmedabad will host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his delight at the announcement. Ahmedabad is in his home state of Gujarat. It has the world's biggest cricket stadium. India last hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2010. When we talk about Nvidia, it's mostly good news. Either the markets are up 1 million points, or investors are making millions, or tech giants are investing billions. That's the usual Nvidia story. But tonight, things are not so rosy for this company. There is talk of a new but old challenger, someone who could end Nvidia's trillion-dollar monopoly. I'm talking about Google. On Monday night, a big headline shook up the tech world. Reports said that Meta was looking to buy chips from Google. They want to reduce their reliance on Nvidia, so Meta turned to Google. No deal has been signed yet, but if confirmed, it could be worth billions of dollars. And more importantly, it would reduce Nvidia's dominance. On cue, the shares crashed. On Tuesday morning, Nvidia was down by almost 7%. It ended the day around 2.6% in the red. That's more than 100 billion in value wiped out. So Nvidia decided that they had to do something about it. They put out a statement. It said, and I'm quoting, "We're delighted by Google's success. They've made great advances in AI, and we continue to supply to Google. Nvidia is a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done." That's the Nvidia statement. So was that a compliment or a diss? NVIDIA says it is delighted by Google's success, but they also had a reminder for investors out there that NVIDIA is a generation ahead of the rest. We'll put that in the diss column. This statement was supposed to reassure investors, to tell them that NVIDIA's market is safe. But is it? Is the market safe? Let's take a closer look at Google's chips. They're called TPUs, Tensor Processing Units. NVIDIA's chips are called GPUs, Graphic Processing Units. Google has been developing these chips, these TPUs, for more than a decade now. Until now, they were only used in-house, meaning Google used these chips to train its own AI models. And one such model is Gemini 3. Now, this model, Gemini 3, was trained entirely on Google's chips, TPUs. And guess what? They outperformed most other AI models. So naturally, tech firms were curious. Last month, Anthropic signed a deal with Google. They're buying around 1 million TPUs. It's a deal worth tens of billions of dollars. Then on Monday, news of Meta's deal with Google broke. So clearly, there's a pattern here. But will it lead to something bigger? Can Google's TPUs match up to NVIDIA's GPUs? Look at the market share. NVIDIA's GPUs make up 90% of the AI chip market. That's a near monopoly. And here's the thing about NVIDIA's chips. They're good. Yes, they had the first mover advantage, but NVIDIA has actually built on that. So you need to have a compelling reason to leave them. You need to have a very good reason to buy from someone else. And Google is not the only one selling at this point. Amazon has its own chip, the Trainium chip. OpenAI is collaborating with Broadcom to make their own chip. So pretty soon, you will have more options in the market. But like I said, is there a compelling reason to buy them? There are 4 factors to note here. Number 1, these non-NVIDIA chips are cheaper. And cheaper chips equals cheaper AI models. Google's TPUs cost just 10 to 50% of NVIDIA's GPUs. So if a GPU is $40,000, then a TPU could be $4,000 to $20,000. Now, do you see the difference? That's factor number 1. NVIDIA is way more expensive than the rest. Factor number 2, non-NVIDIA chips offer better performance. Experts say 1.4 times more per dollar. So that's time and money saved. Factor number 3, NVIDIA's chips are more versatile. Experts say GPUs are like a Swiss knife. They can do multiple tasks at the same time. But these other chips, they're custom built. They're made specifically to train or run AI models. And that is why they're cheaper, because these chips are basically one-trick ponies. Which brings us to the final factor, the 4th factor, NVIDIA's ecosystem. The company has a software called CUDA, Compute Unified Device Architecture. Tech firms use CUDA to harness the GPU power. If the GPUs are a magical door, then CUDA is the key. Again, that's an advantage. Most AI developers have become used to this software. If they want to work quickly, they will prefer CUDA. So here's the bottom line. These new chips will create a splash in the market. Some tech firms will buy them to diversify away from NVIDIA, but the company's dominance is not under threat. Not yet. Like they said, they're a generation ahead. Unless Google or someone else makes a quantum leap, that won't change. Now let's turn to India and the US. Trump's trade war has already strained ties, and while negotiations drag on, a new flashpoint may be opening up. Fentanyl. It's a lab-made drug. It is stronger than heroin, and it has fueled America's deadly drug crisis, the fentanyl crisis. So far, Trump has blamed China for it, but now it turns out that his team tried to drag in India too. A new report has revealed this. It talks about the early days of the trade war. This was just before Trump announced the tariffs. His officials held discussions on the fentanyl crisis. And in focus was an assessment published by US intelligence agencies. It was a report on fentanyl trafficking, specifically on the chemicals used to make the drug and how those chemicals ended up in the US. That's what the report contained. This report was published in March, and it named India. The report said India was the number 2 supplier of such chemicals used to make fentanyl. India was the number 2 supplier, China was the top supplier, and India was named right after it. And US drug control experts briefed Donald Trump's officials about this. So what was the goal of this briefing? The idea was to build an argument against India, to see whether this report on fentanyl could be used to justify higher tariffs on India. In other words, they were exploring if they could blame India for America's drug crisis and use it as an excuse to slap tariffs. As it turned out, they decided against it. US officials have not named India publicly for the fentanyl crisis. Instead, they picked another issue. They focused on India's purchases of Russian oil. That became their excuse for the tariffs. And those tariffs are still in place, by the way. A 50% duty on Indian exports. It still applies. India and the US are negotiating a truce, and this fentanyl crisis could become a headache for India again, which is why New Delhi is actively addressing the issue. Indian agencies are stepping up enforcement. They're working with American agencies. In fact, back in the month of March, India made major arrests. The anti-terrorism squad in Gujarat carried out an operation. They nabbed 2 individuals who were said to be smuggling banned chemicals. These were ingredients used to make fentanyl. These 2 men were smuggling these ingredients. India arrested them, and the Americans helped. I'll tell you how. The banned chemicals were being smuggled into South American nations. US authorities intercepted some shipments, including 4 consignments that were on their way to Mexico. The Americans seized them. This was in March. Then in September, the US Embassy in Delhi issued a statement. It said, and I'm quoting, "We are grateful to our counterparts in the government of India for their close cooperation to combat this shared challenge." Now, this was in connection with a different case. The US had denied visas to some business executives. That's because it believed that these people were involved in trafficking fentanyl chemicals. So what do these episodes tell you? That India is working with American agencies to track, curb, and investigate the fentanyl problem. FBI Director Kash Patel agrees. Consider what he said in the month of June. I'm quoting, "FBI agents were in India working with local officials to find these companies involved in the fentanyl trade, and we are going to shut them down." And this cooperation is not limited to the US. This weekend, Prime Minister Modi was at the G20 summit. South Africa was the host. And in front of all G20 members, Prime Minister Modi called for a joint initiative to fight synthetic drugs like fentanyl. He tried to rally global leaders. He called for a global crackdown on drugs. And that shows that India is making a case for active enforcement. And the effort needs a bigger role of world powers, because this threat is fast evolving. Of course, India too has a major role to play. It is, after all, called the pharmacy of the world. India is called the pharmacy of the world. This industry, the pharma industry, is expected to grow to $130 billion by 2030. It supplies about 20% of the world's generic drugs. And this makes India the largest provider of generics globally. The US is among the largest buyers of Indian drugs. In fact, after the pandemic, the US has been buying more. India's pharmaceutical exports to the United States have surged. They've gone up by 70%, 70%. Today, 16% of America's finished retail drugs come from India, and that makes India one of the biggest medical suppliers to the United States. So yes, India has a big role to play here. It must invest more in regulation. It must strengthen oversight of its pharma sector. But like I said, this threat is evolving. Traffickers are getting smarter. They keep exploiting new loopholes. They keep using new routes, and they often send chemicals through other countries just to avoid detection. Which means the solution to this problem cannot be local. It needs global coordination. India has tried to lead that conversation. It has pushed for action at the G20 summit. Too bad Donald Trump was not there to hear it. In China, the property sector is facing another potential crisis. A major state-owned developer is under pressure. It is called China Vanke. At one point, it was the biggest real estate developer in the country. It was seen as a benchmark for the entire industry. If Vanke performed well, the sector looked healthy. But today, China's property sector is in distress and Vanke too is in trouble. Its investors are growing nervous. They fear that the company could default in the coming months. And without government help, the company may not survive. Now, Vanke on its part has been trying to calm nerves. There is speculation that it's looking to restructure its debt. It has been speaking to investors. But so far, they remain unconvinced, and their worries are now spilling into the markets. Vanke's bonds have fallen sharply. Some of them have dropped by more than 30%. Think of it like this. People lent money to Vanke, and now they're scared that they won't get the money back. So everyone is trying to pull out money at once, and that is why the value of their bonds has dropped so fast. It got so bad that the Shenzhen Stock Exchange had to step in. Today, it suspended the trading of some Vanke bonds. And the company is running out of time. It has big payments coming up. 13.4 billion yuan in bond payments. That's almost $2 billion. When a company issues a bond, it is asking people to lend it money. In return, it promises two things: some extra money every year, like interest, and the full amount on a fixed date. That's a bond payment. For Vanke, a payment of $2 billion is due. They must pay it by June next year. So the clock is ticking. And this is not a one-off story, this company. It's a symptom of China's bigger crisis. Their property sector is in a deep slump. Many developers need bailouts just to stay afloat. But Beijing is hesitant to intervene because if it rescues one company, others will demand the same. It could open the floodgates. So far, China has avoided direct bailouts. What it has offered instead is broad policy support.
It should be noted that the real estate market is currently in a transition period between the old and new development models. Structural adjustment will take time, and certain indicators may fluctuate during this process.
Last week, some fresh reports came out. They said Beijing is weighing new options, like subsidizing interest costs on new mortgages. Meaning, the government will pay some of your interest on the home loan, so buying a house becomes cheaper. There's no guarantee this will work, but it's proof that the crisis persists. The property sector needs help. Look at the numbers that came last month. China released new economic data. It said their recovery looks shaky. October was a tough month. Key indicators across the board flashed red, like factory output. Growth slowed sharply. In September, it was 6.5%. In October, it dropped to 4.9%. That's a big dip in just 1 month, from 6.5 to 4.9. Then there's fixed asset investment. This is money spent on long-term assets like your buildings, your factories, infrastructure. It shows that your businesses expect growth, so they're ready to invest big money for the long term. These numbers fell by over 12%. They've been falling for 5 straight months, which means businesses in China are not investing. They're holding back, and that is never a good sign for the economy. Then you have retail sales. Retail sales are slowing too. Retail sales is the amount that people spend in shops. In September, the numbers were picking up, but in October, growth dipped to just 2.9%. That's the slowest in months. It shows Chinese consumers are tightening their purse strings. And then you have exports. They have been the biggest growth engine for China, but they're losing momentum. In September, exports had strong numbers, but in October, they dropped by 1.1%. That's a complete reversal. So whether it's factories or investment or shopping or trade, the slowdown is showing up everywhere. And it's happening all at once. The recovery, it seems, is not just stuck, it is slipping backwards.
They're going to keep talking. They're talking to Russia now. Steve Witkoff is going over.
Is Trump's top envoy playing for the Russians? I know it sounds like clickbait, but wait until you read the transcripts. You see, Washington woke up today to a leak, a call recording between Trump's envoy and a senior Kremlin aide. Now, you may think, what's wrong with that? The Americans are engaging with the Russians. They're talking to them. They're trying to negotiate a peace deal. So what's the big deal about a call? Well, it's not the call per se, but the contents of this call. That's what has raised eyebrows. It shows that Trump's top aide is coaching the Russians. Coaching for what? On how to pitch a peace plan to Donald Trump. The Trump aide in question was Steve Witkoff. On paper, he is the U.S. Special Envoy to West Asia, but unofficially, he's the peace envoy. Wherever there is a war, there is Steve Witkoff. And our story goes back to October. Witkoff had just come off a big foreign policy win, the Gaza peace deal. He was riding high. The White House was basking in applause. Trump had just addressed the Israeli Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament, and he pitched himself as the peace president. Then came October 14th. A phone rings somewhere between Washington and Moscow. On one side is Steve Witkoff. On the other is a man called Yuri Ushakov. He is the Russian president's senior-most foreign policy advisor. He was Russia's ambassador to the U.S. from 1999 to 2008. He has been Vladimir Putin's aide since 2012. This should tell you his place in Moscow. He's been around for a really long time. So this is the man Witkoff was talking to. The call started as a way to discuss a peace deal in Ukraine. But what followed was a masterclass. A masterclass on how to pitch to Donald Trump. Listen to this.
My friend, I just want your advice. Do you think that it will be useful if our bosses will talk on the phone?
Yes, I do.
You do. And when you think it could be possible?
I think as soon as you suggest, my guy's ready to do it.
Okay.
Yuri, here's what I would do. My recommendation.
Yes, please.
I would make the call and just reiterate that you congratulate the president on this achievement, that you respect that he is a man of peace, and you're really glad to have seen it happen. So I would say that. I think from that, it's going to be a really good call.
Steve Witkoff sounds polite, upbeat, even chummy. Ushakov congratulates him on the Gaza deal. Witkoff reciprocates. Then he goes full TED Talk mode. He tells the Russian what to say. Say that Moscow always wanted a peace deal. He suggests that Putin should call Trump. But first, the Russian president should congratulate Trump on Gaza. Witkoff coaches him on the tone. He says it should be positive, it should be flattering. He even recommends some lines, like tell Trump he's a man of peace, say that Russia supported the Gaza deal, even introduce a 20-point Ukraine peace plan, just like the one in Gaza.
I'm even thinking that maybe we set out like a 20-point peace proposal, just like we did in Gaza. We put a 20-point Trump plan together that was 20 points for peace, and I'm thinking maybe we do the same thing with you. My point is this.
Okay, my friend. I think that very point our leaders could discuss. Hey, Steve, I agree with you that he will congratulate. He will say that Mr. Trump is a real peace man, and so. That he will say.
Now, you may say this is just diplomacy, Americans talking to Russians. What is the big deal? Well, here's where it gets a little messy. And you must listen to this first.
Now me to you. I know what it's going to take to get a peace deal done, Donetsk, and maybe a land swap somewhere. But I'm saying instead of talking like that, let's talk more hopefully, because I think we're going to get to a deal here. And I think, Yuri, the president will give me a lot of space and discretion to get to the deal.
I see.
So if we can create that opportunity that after this I talked to Yuri and we had a conversation, I think that could lead to big stuff.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good.
And here's one more thing. Zelensky is coming to the White House on Friday.
I know that.
I will go to that meeting because they want me there. But I think if possible, we have the call with your boss before that Friday meeting.
Before, yeah?
Correct.
That is Trump's top aide suggesting territorial concessions. Concessions that Ukraine must take. Also, look at the timing. It came just days before Zelensky was in the White House. And we all know how that visit went. Trump was expressing support for Ukraine. He was even talking about giving them Tomahawk missiles. Zelensky was on his way to Washington. In the meantime, Trump spoke to Putin over the phone. When Zelensky landed, he came expecting Tomahawks from the Americans. But Trump did not give him the missiles. Reports suggest the meeting itself was tough. Some even describe it as heated. Trump made some strong statements, and days later, we saw a Ukraine peace plan, the one that favors Russia. So you could say that Witkoff's call with Ushakov was the seed of the peace plan. They make it sound like a roadmap to peace, but it looks more like a Russian wish list with some American formatting. Because they're calling for a land swap, a plan where Ukraine will have to give up the Donbas. Basically, almost everything that Russia wants, with a few American commas. That's what this deal is, which is why the Ukrainians rejected the first draft. And now this Witkoff leak is causing a furor in Washington. President Donald Trump was asked about it. He brushed it off as standard deal making.
Off coaching the Russians on how to appeal to you?
Well, I haven't heard it, no, but that's a standard thing, because he's got to sell this to Ukraine. He's got to sell Ukraine to Russia. That's what a deal maker does. You got to say, look, they want this. You've got to convince them with this. That's a very standard form of negotiation.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin is on the defensive. It says the call was leaked to derail peace talks. Now, in Trump's world, flattering the opponent is part of the strategy. But here's the problem. When your opponent is Vladimir Putin, flattery starts to look a lot like alignment. So who exactly is writing the Ukraine peace plan? Is it Washington or is it Moscow? Because right now the transcripts tell their own story. And in that story, the Kremlin is not just a player. It is the protagonist holding the pen. It was budget day in the UK, a make or break moment for Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He's battling record low approval ratings. He's facing alleged plots to oust him. So a lot was riding on today's budget. And things did not start well. The Budget Office accidentally uploaded the full budget before it was presented. Not exactly a good omen. As for policies, the big headline is this: the UK government is raising taxes once again, that too after promising not to raise taxes last year. So will this broken promise spell more trouble for Prime Minister Starmer? And what's his way out of this crisis? Our next report tells you.
It was the worst possible start to Budget Day in the UK. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was ready with her iconic red case. But 40 minutes before her speech, something unprecedented happened. The UK's Budget Office accidentally released the full details online. The new taxes, the new forecasts, everything was uploaded ahead of schedule. What a way to start a make-or-break budget. Chancellor Reeves had a tough job at hand. On one hand, the pressures of a slowing economy. On the other, a sticky cost of living crisis. And looming over all of this, the need to keep the deficit in check. A lot of focus was on the tax policy. Last year, Reeves had raised taxes by £40 billion, but she promised it would be a one-off. Yet this time, more taxes have been announced. The latest budget will raise around £26 billion by 2030. It will take the UK's tax revenue to a record high. More than 38% of the GDP by the start of the next decade. The Chancellor has frozen income tax thresholds for 3 years. She has raised taxes on certain pension payments, on property and dividends, on electric vehicles and on gambling. Properties worth more than £2 million will also attract more taxes. It's being called the mansion tax. In Parliament, Chancellor Reeves defended her policies. She tried to build a budget as a balanced one, something the opposition isn't buying.
I said there would be no return to austerity, and I meant it. This budget will maintain investment in our economy and in our National Health Service. I said I would cut the cost of living, and I meant it. This budget will bring down inflation and provide immediate relief for families. I said I would cut debt and borrowing, and I meant it.
This budget comes at a tumultuous time for Keir Starmer's government. He rose to power in a landslide victory. But the honeymoon did not last long. Starmer has one of the worst approval ratings for British Prime Ministers. Recent polls showed that 8 in 10 Britons think their country is getting worse. Things got so bad that rumours of a plot began to swirl. A plot within his own Labour Party to oust him. Maybe that worry clouded his mind at the G20 meeting in South Africa, because out of nowhere, he nearly fell down.
Hello. How are you? Very good to see you. Lovely to meet you.
This week, he tried another stunt. Starmer visited a primary school where he accidentally triggered a viral dance move. It's a Gen Z trend called 6-7. As it turned out, the trend is banned in UK schools, so Starmer had to apologise.
Oh, it's not on the same page. 6-7. Yeah. 6-7. Everybody. 6-7. Are you doing page 6-7?
We're not over that yet. We're not over that. Still very much a thing.
Starmer's turnaround lies in growth. This year promises to be okay for the UK. The country will end 2025 as the second fastest growing economy in the G7. But the forecasts are not good. In 2026, the UK was expected to grow by 1.9%. The new forecast is 1.4%. In 2027, the forecast is down from 1.8% to 1.5%. And here lies the problem. Starmer knows he must spend more on welfare. That's the only way to win back his disenchanted supporters. But for that, he needs to kickstart growth.
Imagine a person who adopts a wild animal thinking it will protect the house. He feeds it, he trains it, he teaches it tricks, and he keeps it in the backyard. Then one day, after years of loyalty, the animal grows fangs. It gets tired of the leash and walks right into the living room. That person is now shocked that the animal is behaving like an animal. That sums up Pakistan's Afghanistan strategy. We're talking about Pakistan and the Taliban. For decades, they were the unlikely bedfellows, bound by strategy, survival, and a very complicated kind of friendship. But lately, the fissures are showing. And this week, they blew wide open. An airstrike hit Afghanistan's Khost province. 10 civilians were killed, 9 of them were children. A civilian home was also reduced to rubble. The Taliban did not waste a second. They pointed straight at Pakistan. Why? Because the strike came just one day after a suicide bombing in Pakistan. The Taliban said they would, and I'm quoting, they would respond appropriately. Pakistan, of course, denied any role. But one thing is quite clear. Those old bedfellows, they're starting to sleep with one eye open. Look at the statement from Khwaja Asif. He's the Defense Minister of Pakistan. He says Islamabad has no good hope left, that they're completely, and I'm quoting, writing off the Taliban.
One should hope for good and not write off another until limits are crossed. But now we are completely writing them off, and we do not expect anything good from them.
This was what Khwaja Asif said. To be honest, he sounds less like a defense minister and more like a jilted lover explaining why the relationship did not work out. Also, it's not just Khwaja Asif. Pakistan's army chief chimed in too. He said, and I quote, "Territorial integrity and protection of every Pakistani citizen is paramount." Strong words, grave tone, a lot of chest thumping, classic Pakistan military trope. Except the Taliban had just accused Pakistan of violating their territorial integrity. So Munir's statement sounded less like a warning and more like an attempt to rewrite the narrative. But that's the thing about foreign policy based on plausible deniability. Eventually, it's neither plausible nor deniable. Because here's the thing. Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban were more than neighbors, they were partners. Pakistan backed the Afghan Taliban in the 1990s. It was the first country to back the first Taliban regime. It hosted them during the US occupation. It lobbied for them internationally. And when Kabul fell in 2021, no one cheered louder than Islamabad. Pakistani officials were photographed embracing Taliban leaders. It was like their personal victory. It was all going well until it wasn't. The root of the problem is the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. It is Pakistan's own Frankenstein. Islamabad hoped that they would stay on the other side of the Durand line. That's the de facto border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, another painful British legacy, another disputed border, the Durand line. Pakistan hoped that the TTP would remain on the Afghan side and it would never question its creators. But that fantasy collapsed fast. The TTP got a safe haven and Pakistan got a national security nightmare. Plus, the Taliban discovered something. They no longer need Pakistan's approval. Pakistan told them to curb the TTP. Kabul shrugged. Pakistan asked for cooperation. Kabul rolled its eyes. Pakistan threatened, lectured and pleaded. Kabul just ignored it. Soon the border flared, talks collapsed, mediation by Qatar and Turkey stalled, trade was suspended and now there are airstrikes and counter threats. Pakistan's political class is trying to act tough. Asim Munir is drawing red lines, Khwaja Asif is proclaiming betrayal, their information minister is blaming coordinated terror masterminded in Kabul.
It will be folly to trust Afghan Taliban. We have tried to remain civil with them, but they've not repaid how one should to the soil that's provided home to two of their generations.
Behind all this bluster is a painful truth. Pakistan no longer holds leverage over the Taliban, not militarily, not economically, not diplomatically. Pakistan can deny, deflect or dramatize, but the story writes itself. Islamabad is finally paying the price for the monsters it created, and this time there are no more excuses left. Our next story is from Taiwan. It is making a big request to the United States and a bigger commitment at home. Taiwan plans to raise $40 billion for defense. This is in addition to its regular military budget. The money will go into drones, missiles and small attack boats, all to counter Chinese invasion. Taiwan also wants to invest in homegrown weapons. US President Donald Trump may not object. He's been telling allies to spend more on their own security, but the plan faces pushback at home. Taiwan's president does not have a majority in parliament, and the opposition says this plan is premature and too expensive. Here's a report.
Taiwan is raising the stakes. The island's president, Lai Ching-te, wants to buy more weapons from the United States, and not just a few shipments. He's asking lawmakers to approve a massive $40 billion defense package. It would be in addition to Taiwan's regular military budget. The money will be used to buy what experts call nimble and mobile weapons. These include drones, unmanned boats, and short-range missile systems. Tools designed to counter a Chinese invasion by moving quickly and striking with precision. The plan is also to build these weapons at home over the next 8 years. So why now? Because the pressure is growing from China, which continues to threaten force.
Beijing authorities have set a goal to complete the armed reunification of Taiwan by 2027, accelerating military preparations for aggression against Taiwan and continuously escalating exercises and gray zone incursions around Taiwan, in an attempt to force reunification through military means and compel surrender through force, ultimately annexing Taiwan.
There's pressure from the US as well. America wants Taiwan to ramp up spending. President Trump's administration has asked Taipei to spend at least 5% of its GDP on defense. Taiwan currently spends about half of that. So this new proposal is a step toward that target. And Trump won't mind. He's been asking for this. And the new proposal fits with his view that US allies should pay for their own defense. Trump has also pushed for faster weapons sales to Taiwan, so this could unlock more American-made arms for the region. But back home in Taiwan, not everyone is on board. President Lai's party doesn't have a majority in parliament, and the opposition, the Nationalist Party, is already pushing back. They say the proposal would require heavy borrowing. They're also upset the president announced it through the media, without first consulting lawmakers. Critics say the government should first fix delivery delays. Taiwan is still waiting for past weapons orders, including US fighter jets. There's also anger over the new submarine program, which some have called a waste of money. But Taiwan's president is standing firm. Lai has warned against appeasing aggressors. He compared the current threat to the lead-up to World War II and called on all Taiwanese, regardless of party, to unite behind national defense. America's envoy in Taipei, Raymond Green, agrees. He called the new proposal a welcome step and urged Taiwan's political parties to back it. He says national security should be a bipartisan issue in both Washington and Taipei. So for now, the defense deal is on the table. The US will likely support it. Trump will likely sell the weapons. But Taiwan's president will first need to win over his own parliament and convince his own people that the price tag is worth it.
Let's turn to India now. New Delhi is betting big on shipbuilding. It's something so important yet so overlooked. Ships carry most things that we use. Ships defend our frontiers. Yet, do we care about who builds our ships? Well, we should. And India is hoping to be that shipbuilder. Yesterday, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended a maritime event. He spoke about India's shipbuilding ambitions. Listen to this.
We are capable of delivering everything from aircraft carriers to advanced research vessels and energy-efficient commercial ships. These integrated capability positions India strongly to become a global hub for shipbuilding, ship repair, and maritime innovation in the coming decade.
So India wants to become a global shipping hub. It wants to shape this maritime century. The obvious question is how? Well, it promises to be a long road ahead. Right now, India makes up just 0.06% of global shipbuilding. We rank 20th in the world. Nonetheless, this is a goal worth chasing, and I'll give you two reasons why we should be chasing this goal. Number one, it makes financial sense. India pays $75 billion to foreign shipbuilders every year. $75 billion every year. That's almost equal to our defense budget. $75 billion. If we build in India, that money will stay here. More investments, more jobs. That's the first reason, financial. Reason number two is strategic. If you buy from outside, you're giving up leverage. What if those sellers sanction you? What if they block you from the market? That's always a risk with foreign shipbuilders. And by the way, China makes up 53% of all shipping output. So your strategic rival handles half the market, which is why India has set new goals. New Delhi wants to capture 5% of the shipbuilding market by 2030. It wants to become a top 5 shipbuilder by 2047. That's when India will mark the 100th year of its independence. Again, the question is, how do we do it? Well, the government's approach has three parts. First is public investments. In September, New Delhi approved $8 billion in funding. This will be used to upgrade India's shipping infrastructure. It will also give incentives and loans to builders, basically spur the industry. The government hopes that this plan will unlock 4.5 million tons in capacity. Let's put that number in context, 4.5 million tons in capacity. Our current capacity is 0.1 million tons. The goal is to unlock 4.5 million. Secondly, India is wooing global partners. For example, our shipping minister is in South Korea this week. He is pushing for closer maritime cooperation. Back in July, HD Hyundai signed a deal with Cochin Shipyard. It marked Korea's debut into Indian shipbuilding. Same with Japan. In September, Japanese firm Mitsui OSK signed deals with Indian firms. Their goal is to build tankers in India. And both these countries are key to our goal. South Korea makes up 25% of global shipbuilding. Japan makes up around 10%. Together, they bring money and expertise. Which brings us to the final part of India's strategy, demonstrating quality. If you want others to build in India, you must build in India first. That's where warships enter the picture. The Indian Navy is waiting for 54 ships right now. All 54 are being built in India, 54 warships. It's a good way to demonstrate India's ability. Just look at INS Vikrant. It is India's first aircraft carrier made at home. Only 6 other countries have achieved that. The US, the UK, China, Russia, France, and Japan. And aircraft carriers, by the way, are the most complicated vessels out there. It's not just about size. It's about the weapons, the radars, the technology. If India can make that, we can surely make cargo ships and tankers. And we have the tools as well. Shipbuilding is mainly about 2 resources. You need steel and you need labor. India is the second largest steel producer in the world. Our output is around 150 million tons. That takes care of steel. 66% of our population is under 35 years of age, meaning they're young and energetic, exactly what you need in shipbuilding. So we have the steel, we have the labor. What we lack is the funding and the infrastructure. If we can fill that gap, India will emerge as a shipping powerhouse. Once upon a time, a vacation meant running away from your life to another city, another airport, another time zone. But now people are running away without really going anywhere. Forget flights, forget frantic itineraries, forget squeezing 10 tourist spots into 6 hours. Welcome to the age of the staycation, where the holiday is just a casual ride away. Maybe a hotel 2 kilometers away, or a cottage 2 hours out, or a homestay where the Wi-Fi works. It's basically travel without travel. Our next report tells you why staycations are on the rise globally and what this quiet revolution says about the future of travel.
There was a time when a holiday meant a suitcase, a flight, and a carefully memorized list of things to see and do. Today, a holiday increasingly means nothing. Nothing to pack, nothing to plan, nothing to tick off. Just a hotel 2 kilometers away, a resort 2 hours out. A homestay with Wi-Fi strong enough for Zoom and a hammock strong enough for everything else. Welcome to the age of the staycation, the holiday that stays put. So, what exactly is a staycation? Think of it as a mini vacation that refuses to overthink itself. It could be a weekend at a hotel in your own city, a quick drive to a quiet homestay, a few days logged in from a hill cottage. No flights, no visas, no complicated itineraries with 15 landmarks and 14 regrets. It's the holiday equivalent of instant noodles, fast, comforting, and surprisingly satisfying. So why are staycations everywhere? The push came during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lingering health concerns pushed many to avoid crowded airports and long flights. This accelerated the shift to car-based, nearby escapes that feel safer and more controllable. But the pandemic is long gone, and yet people continue to choose staycations. Why is that? Well, there are a few reasons. The first reason is convenience. A staycation is wonderfully low effort. You find a place, book it, get there before the traffic finds you. 2 is budgets. Airfares have gone up. International trips are pricier, so staycations quietly stepped in as the hero. 3, hybrid work changes everything. Work from anywhere turned into work from the hills, work from the beach, and for many, work from the nearby resort with room service. And finally, it is all about escaping. People want silence, air that isn't toxic, places where your phone stops buzzing. A 3-night staycation does the trick without the drama, and it's here to stay. Market estimates suggest the global staycation segment is growing at roughly 8 to 9% annually. It is worth around $400 million. By 2030, it could rise to over $800 million. Here in India, too, it is catching up. India's young, restless, smartphone-tethered workforce is the perfect audience for staycations. They want breaks, but don't want to wait for long leave. And so the trend exploded, especially from metros. Delhi seeks quick hill breaks. Bengaluru runs to the plantations. Mumbai drives to beaches, villas, nature retreats, and anything with a pool and available parking. Families use long weekends to escape city heat. Groups book villas for celebrations. And young professionals want privacy, nature, a pool, and perfect lighting. Meanwhile, India's homestay scene, villas, bungalows, offbeat retreats, is quietly booming. It is growing in double digits and nibbling away at the hotel-only mindset. So what does this staycation surge tell us? It's that people aren't traveling less, they're traveling differently. A hotel can be a holiday, a weekend can be an escape, and as hotels adapt, homestays flourish, and work from anywhere becomes a norm, this trend will only deepen. Because a break doesn't have to be far away to feel real. Sometimes, a vacation is just a short drive and a long exhale away.
Have you heard of Google Meet? It's an online platform mostly used for work calls here in India. It experienced a shutdown today. When users tried to log in, they got an error message. The error message said, 505 bad gateway. I'm sure hundreds of meetings were disrupted by this outage, but the users certainly did not care or complain. For them, it was like a midweek gift from God. No online meetings, no check-ins with the team, and no work. They celebrated with memes on social media. Take a look. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Russian President Putin attempts to play a Kyrgyz musical instrument. Thailand delivers aid by air as the death toll from the floods in the south continues to rise. And a Texas police officer arrests a goat and reads its rights to it. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 2008, 10 terrorists from Pakistan attacked the Indian city of Mumbai. The attacks, including a 4-day siege of the Taj Hotel, killed 166 people. 9 attackers were gunned down by Indian security forces. One surviving terrorist, Ajmal Kasab, was captured, tried, and later executed in 2012. It remains one of the deadliest terror attacks in Indian history. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Левой рукой звуки слышу, да? Правой играет, а левый издает.
Dude, hey, goat, where do you live? Little goat guy, hey, look at this, look how cool this car is. Get in the car. Yeah, that's a good goat. Go in there, yeah, let's go for a ride. You're one bad mamma jamma. You have the right to remain silent and not make any statements at all. Any statements you make may be used against you at trial. You have the right to have a lawyer present to advise you prior to and during questioning. You know what, so do you want to talk or no? You give me a 5?